Body recomposition, losing body fat and building lean muscle. Is it possible? Of course it is. In fact, it is the holy grail of fitness, but it's not as simple as one would be led to believe. In fact, there are only 6 circumstances when you're going to be able to successfully recomp. We'll get to those in 1 second, but the most important thing to understand is you're going to have faster results if you focus individually on trying to build muscle or lose fat as your primary goal. The recomposition aspect can take place, but it generally does as a side effect, not the primary process of a particular goal. The reason is recomposition, it takes time. And most people, they run out of patience. When people run out of patience, then they run out and change their program. So if you want to build a recomp, here are 6 cases when you're going to be most likely to do so and 4 steps that you need to implement as soon as possible with your diet. Or your body's going to be receptive to everything that you throw at it. In fact, you can do almost everything wrong, but if you work hard enough, your body's going to start building muscle and losing body fat. If you want to lose fat and build muscle, the number 1 thing you need to do, join our Look Great Naked protocol. Head to the link below, book your transformation call, and hit subscribe. Or, in addition, let's say you've been in great shape before and now you're jumping back into it, your body's gonna have some muscle memory. So when you get dialed in with your diet, you're gonna be able to start losing body fat and building lean muscle. In fact, take a look at my client Dave. Dave, over this course of about 8 weeks, according to the bod scans that he was getting, I know not the most pristine accurate statement, he lost 17 pounds of body fat and gained 7 pounds of muscle. The reason is his body started to remember some of the things that he did before. We dialed in his diet and we optimized his training around it. So recomposition is definitely possible. However, when you're a beginner or you're getting back into it after a long layoff, those are going to be 2 of the best circumstances. Recomposition number 2. Training effectively for the first time. A lot of people do not train as effectively as they could. In fact, they tend to just throw random stuff at the wall and hope something works. However, if you really dial in your training, you get the right volume, the right intensity, the right recovery, all of these components dialed in and working together for you, then you can have a recomposition experience. That's why it's so important to have a structured program that's designed by an expert, not just random stuff that you're picking up off of YouTube, Instagram, or TikTok. Recomposition case number 3, eating right for the first time. Let me guess, when you first started training, you could eat whatever the hell you wanted and you were still building lean muscle. Unfortunately, that room for error, it gets smaller the longer that you train and the older that you get. So if you really dial in your nutrition, let's say you start eating a lot cleaner than you were before, you optimize how often you're eating, your macronutrients and the quality of the food that you're having, you can have a recomposition effect even if nothing else changes with your routine. Recomposition case number 4, you're recovering optimally for the first time. Most people train plenty hard, they eat decent enough to really transform their body. However, where they fall apart is the recovery process. Let's say you've been getting 5 or 6 hours of sleep per night, living on stimulants just to get through the day, and then you're dry scooping your pre-workout. Well, guess what? All that caffeine, all of that lack of sleep, that creates a rise in cortisol. Cortisol, that's going to negatively impact testosterone levels, growth hormone, and your ability to stay dialed in. In addition, it's also going to negatively impact insulin sensitivity. So in this case, if you were able to improve your sleep quality, decrease the number of stimulants that you're having, and have a better overall recovery system, then your training and your nutrition is going to become more effective without even changing those factors. Recomposition case number 5, training synergy. This means that your training, your nutrition, and your lifestyle are all working together in one. Now, what often happens, someone will be working really hard in the gym, they'll be eating pretty good, but then their recovery, it doesn't match up. Or maybe they're training really hard, but they eat like crap, but they get plenty of sleep. Whatever the case, when you do not have these 3 factors lined up, you're not going to optimize all of them working together. So what you need to be able to do, your training volume has to be able to match what you can recover from, and your sleep has to be dialed in. Or your nutrition, for example, let's say you're working out really hard with high volume, you're going to do much better with a higher carbohydrate intake because that's going to help your body actually recover and build lean muscle at the same time. Whatever the case, your training, your lifestyle, your nutrition, they have to work together. It doesn't work just to throw together a random workout program, a diet that you found on social media, and then sleep a little bit and hope that it works. All 3 factors have to work together. And for this reason, that's why the room for error on a recomposition is so small, especially as you get older and more experienced in the gym. Recomposition case number 6, performance enhancing drugs. Listen, steroids, growth hormone, all of these things, do they work? Of course they work. I'm just pointing out the obvious here. If somebody has a massive recomposition and they've been training for a long time, there is a chance that it could be anabolic steroids. I'm not condoning it, but let's be real, that's the reality that we live in right now. If you want to be able to do a recomposition, we have to be able to alternate between time periods of anabolism, so building, and catabolism, when our body is breaking down. So here's exactly what we need to do. Here's the exact diet strategy that you need to follow. Part number 1, a fat loss focused diet. For recomposition, the primary goal is really going to be fat loss with strategic meal timing. With your diet, the goal is to lose about 1 pound a week. Not so aggressive that building muscle is impossible. So here's how we set it up. You're going to want to take some notes on this. Body weight in pounds times 15 is a good baseline estimation for maintenance calories. There are dozens of equations and they all more or less get you close to the same number, so don't get lost in a sea of information. Let's say you weigh 175 pounds. 175 times 15 is 2625. Weekly target for fat loss, a pound a week, is 3,500 calories. That's what the deficit needs to be. So what we're going to do is we're going to follow a 5-2 diet. More on that shortly. We're going to have 5 days at a calorie deficit. So 3,500 calories, we want a 600 calorie deficit. That puts us at 4,100 calories for a deficit in total for the week. That's more than a pound per week. So if we have 4,100 calories as a deficit by 5 days a week, that means we need to be at an overall deficit of 820 calories per day. So what we want to do is we take up our total calories at 2625 right here, and then we subtract 820 calories, meaning you will consume 1,805 calories 5 days out of the week. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to actually increase calories 2 days per week so you actually have a life. And so we're going to add a slight calorie surplus of 300 calories on each of those days, giving you 2925 calories 2 days per week. So in total, you're going to have 5 days we're eating 1,805 calories. Those are your aggressive fat loss days. And then you're going to have 2 days where you're eating 2925 for calories on the day. Doing this is going to allow you more freedom, more flexibility, and a much better lifestyle than having a strict calorie deficit every day of the week. Part number 2, cyclical dieting. So as you can see directly with the whiteboard here, we've got a few things going on. 5 days, we're going to have 1,805 calories, and then 2 days, we're going to be up a little bit higher at 2925. Here's why we're doing this. There's a popular diet for fat loss called the 5-2 diet. And what this does, this should normally be 5 days where you're eating at maintenance and 2 with a very stark calorie deficit. We're talking like 800 calories. To me, I've never seen it work very well. And frankly, I've tried it. It sucks. I don't want to put you through that. Why? Why would we do that? Anyway, we're going to flip that around. And so when we flip this around, we have 5 days at a moderately aggressive fat loss deficit, followed by those 2 high days. The reason that we want to oscillate between having low calorie days and higher calorie days, when you diet long term, and you've probably experienced this if you've ever stuck with an aggressive diet for far too long, we can go through metabolic adaptation. This means that your metabolism is going to start to adapt. You're going to start burning fewer calories when you're at the gym, when you're walking around throughout the day. Thyroid function can decrease, and pretty soon, what was a fat loss deficit no longer works. This is why people plateau. When you look at your calories and you're trying to lose body fat, it isn't a stationary target. In fact, it's something that changes based on your stress, based on what you've done before in dieting, based on your training, all of these different factors. So you need to be able to oscillate calories up and down to be able to consistently lose body fat long term. And how we're going to do that, we have our 5 days down right here. Those are going to be aggressive. You're going to lose a lot more body fat. And then when we increase your calories 2 days per week, that's going to prevent that metabolic downregulation, make sure that different fat loss hormones like ghrelin, leptin, all these things and thyroid function stay optimized so you can lose body fat, look great naked without living in the gym. Part number 3, setting up your fat loss diet. So what does this actually look like? So remember, we've got 5 days we're eating a calorie deficit. That is going to be your primarily focus to lose body fat. So here's how it looks. Let's start with protein. Typical advice is 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. However, when it comes to losing body fat and building lean muscle, I like to actually go a little bit higher. The reason for this is it's difficult for your body to use excess protein as body fat. In addition, protein itself is extremely satiating. So if you're at a calorie deficit when you're eating and you're having a lot of protein, you're going to stay full, and that's going to allow you to stick to it much more effectively. For this case, we're actually going to push protein up to 1.25 grams per pound of body weight. As you can see here, 1.25 grams of protein per pound of body weight times body weight of 175 is going to be 219 grams of protein per day. With protein being 4 calories per gram, that comes out to 876 calories each and every single day from protein. Now, when we look at your fat intake, we need to keep that around 20%. So in this case, what we're going to do is we're going to multiply your calories, 1805 times 0.2. That gives us 361 calories from protein. Fat is much more calorically dense than carbohydrates or protein. So 361 divided by 9 means 40 grams of fat per day. Finally, we finish on carbohydrates. With carbs, we're going to subtract. We have 1,805 calories. We're going to take away the calories from protein, 876, minus the calories from fat, 361, and we are left with 568 calories. We divide that by 4 calories per gram that are in carbohydrates, and we're left with 142 grams of carbs per day. So on your deficit days, yeah, this seems like freaking math class, I know, 805 calories, 219 grams of protein, 40 grams of fat, and 142 grams of carbohydrates. Now, a quick note, the science here is clear. When it comes to fat loss, both low carb and low fat can work. However, if we look at people who are in the best shape in the world, physique competitors, they're typically following low fat diets, 20 to 30% of their calories. So what we want to do here, ideal, yes, that's what it's going to be. However, personal preference, if you want to bump those fat calories up a little bit and bring the carbohydrates down, that is fine, but you will not recover from your training quite as well. The most important factors, we have our calories in alignment and our protein. Carbohydrates and then fat, those come after the two big rocks. Part number 4, muscle growth days. These are the best days. Ideally, you would be training hard on these days and make them on the weekend. So if you know that you're going to tend to eat more on a Friday and a Saturday, make those your hardest training days. Or if it's going to be Saturday and Sunday, make those your hardest training days where you can get more calories in. Ideally, at least one of these needs to be leg day. The reason we do this, most people fall apart on their diet on the weekends because they can't have a social life, because they can't enjoy themselves. This helps eliminate that problem, which is why we're having the 2 high days in the first place. So when you structure it correctly, this is going to allow you to help you lose body fat and build lean muscle without living in the gym or obsessing every single day of the week. So here's what it looks like. Your high calorie days are 29-25. That's how many calories you'll be eating each and every single day. Now, with protein intake, we're going to stay at that 1.25 grams per pound of body weight. So 175 times 1.25, we are still at the 219 each and every single day. But what we're going to do here is we're going to increase both the carbs and the fat. So when it comes to your fat calories, we're going to take 29.25, we have 876 calories, divided by 9, that's 97 grams per day. Carbohydrates, same thing, 29.25, 876, 877, it's literally, we got like 0.7 difference there. We're gonna end up with 1,172 calories for the day. We divide that by 4, and then we have our grams of carbohydrates for the day. So as you can see, on your training days, we have 2,925 calories. Of that, we have 219 grams of protein, 293 grams of carbohydrates, and 97 grams of fat. Just like when it came to fat loss, most important things, hit your calories and hit your protein. There can be some interpersonal variability between your carbohydrate intake and your fat intake. It does become more of a point of personal preference. However, if you are training hard, carbohydrates are going to be much better fuel source and aid your recovery much more than going high in fat. However, if you have a lifestyle where you're going out to dinner, maybe you're having pizza one night, whatever the case, your calories for fat are going to be a little bit higher. You can make that work as long as you hit the calories and as long as you hit your protein numbers. So yes, it's definitely possible to have a recomposition. You can lose body fat while building lean muscle. However, your margin for error is a lot tighter, especially if you've been training for a long time.